Real estate is a job. You can't stick a sign in the yard and expect a house to sell itself. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of hustle behind that. And a lot of people don't see that. Yeah. Even sellers don't see that.
Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. Today's guest is a force in Northeast Florida real estate and one of the most inspiring agents you'll meet. After years of raising her boys and supporting her husband through multiple moves, she found her forever home in Amelia Island. And it didn't take long for her to turn her passion for the community into a powerful real estate career. In just under 4 years, she's gone from a rookie to rock star, starting in mid-2021, quickly earning Century 21's Rookie of the Year with a $7 million in production. She followed that with a $14 million in 22, $23 million in 23, and in 24, she absolutely exploded with $34 million in sales, earning Century 21's highest corporate honor, the Grand Centurion and President's Award. And how does she do it? Not with the fancy website or paid leads, but with hustle, dry erase board, and 20 yellow legal pads. She's a proud mom, community expert, and someone who believes there's no better place to live than Amelia Island. She's building a business on relationships, results, and relentless consistency. Let's welcome Tammy Tingle to the show.
Thank you.
That's pretty good.
That is pretty good. I like it. I need to steal that.
Yeah. I was on your LinkedIn. I would have it go and take that, and because you kind of just have some basic things on LinkedIn.
I do, yeah. I should use that more. I think
it's one of the, I was telling Britt over at Landmark, because obviously she does a lot of training over there.
Right.
I said, the agents really need a LinkedIn training. It's a resume that anyone who doesn't know them can go and look and say, oh, she went to Georgia Southern, right? That's where I got that. And, you could tell by their jobs or where they may have lived before, and people resonate with that. And obviously having a bio on there. And we know with AI,
right.
We were talking about a pre-show. People are searching it. So have AI create your bio.
Right.
Give it the information, have it create your bio.
Yeah.
So, but welcome. I'm glad you made the trip down.
Thank you.
I'm really excited because you have you're snowballing at a very rapid pace.
Right.
And I'm sure it's probably changed your lifestyle.
It has.
Yeah.
It has.
Tell me a little bit what real estate has done for you and your family.
It has allowed a lot of freedom, I guess I should say. Freedom as in, enjoy, yes, I get up every morning, try and get to the gym. I have my 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. hours at the office. I've recently started doing that after doing just listening with Greg Harrelson. He's a guru in Century 21. Mm-hmm. He's a coach. So 8 to 11 a.m. in the office, that is my time. Emails, leads, anything that I can do, that's my office time. After that, I just kind of do, inspections, showings.
Whatever comes up on the schedule.
Whatever comes up on the schedule, that is, but 8 to 11 is my time in the office.
Well, since we're talking, one of the questions I have, we'll jump to it because it sounds like you have a routine. And for you, coming into the office is that way to get your mindset that, hey, I'm going to work.
Right. It's a job. Real estate is a job. You can't stick a sign in the yard and expect a house to sell itself. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of hustle behind that. And a lot of people don't see that. Yeah. Even sellers don't see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you've been through this transition with this buyer-broker agreement.
Uh-huh.
I've talked to many agents, think they actually are making more money today because they actually are having to spend some time to sit down and explain some of these things we're talking about.
Right. And, a lot of people were worried with the buyer-broker agreement that they would lose clients. I love it. I absolutely love it that they're committed to me. I'm committed to them. I think it's a great thing.
Yeah.
It is a absolutely wonderful thing. And I have not had a single person decline signing that. So
were you doing any sort of buyer broker agreement before the summer?
Nothing.
Or last summer?
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah. So you trained yourself. I'm sure obviously you guys were doing things in the office to role play.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's, you're being coached. We read all these books on sales and stuff, and if we could implement all these things that all these great salespeople have done, but we don't. We pick and choose what we want to do, and then obviously one of the key things is consistency.
Right.
Well, you have to be consistent with buyer broker agreement. You have to do it.
Yeah. Right.
So.
Right.
To sit down and actually have that discussion of the services and the value you're going to bring.
Right. Yeah. So I will have them come in to my office. We sit in the conference room, go over it. They go over my buyer's package, demonstrating what I'm going to offer them, my value, and we go from there.
Yeah.
And I literally have not had a single person say they would not sign it.
Do you instinctively try to get that face-to-face? I mean, I imagine some customers aren't able to.
Some aren't. I will do a FaceTime, but most, are going to come in the office.
Yeah, that's your game.
Because I want
this is
them
business.
to, this is my job.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a job. It's not a hobby. It is.
Right.
It pays my bills. It pays my college kids' tuition. It's all those things.
Yeah.
So, you have to work and. Yes.
Well, I think, for anyone listening, and I agree that if I was on your side, this is the way I would do it, because I do believe the home court advantage of having the office. And if you have a nice office,
right.
To bring people in, that this is business.
Right.
Sometimes I think, the meet in the coffee shop is okay, but it almost is a little too relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That, hey, I'm just fine. Let's just meet at the coffee shop. It's easy.
Right.
It's convenient. Versus, no, we're going to go to the office.
Right.
This is business, and we're going to get serious about you buying a home.
Right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. The conference room is we have a great conference room at my office. Sit there. I can actually go through, show them slides of, the properties that we're going to look at, give them details of the communities. I mean, great spot.
I like the slides of the homes. Because they may make a judgment right there. Say, I don't want to go see it. Save yourself a lot of time.
And I can easily, decline showing, and let the agent know, hey, your sellers don't have to be out. They've decided not to.
Yeah, this kind of already sets that game plan, because I'm sure you've experienced and probably gotten better as your transaction have gone along on asking the right questions and finding out what they really want, what they really desire. Because a lot of people say, oh, I want this many bass, but there's always something they don't mention that's actually very important.
Right.
And sometimes it won't come out until you start actually looking at homes.
Right, yeah. So HOA versus non-HOA, on island versus off island. You really have to understand what they're truly looking for.
Yeah.
Because if they're going to spend, for example, most of their time on island, do they truly want to live off island if they can afford to be on island? Right. Because they'll regret it. So.
All right, we jumped ahead. I'm going to take just a very short. Remy Graphics makes these great mugs for you, and I've got one for you. Make sure I give it to you. I didn't set it on your seat earlier. Usually I do that. I forgot to do that. But makes these mugs. Remy Graphics, RemyGraphics.com. Remy Realty, absolutely. She makes these for me. Okay. What's great is she'll make one-offs. So if you want to say welcome to Amelia Island, the Smith family, or whatever, she will make one or two of those. You don't have to order 10 of them for you, but just get it to you, and she gets them to you in a couple days. So RemyGraphics.com. So let's go back to the beginning. Let's give everyone a little bit about Tammy pre-real estate. Okay. So tell us, where'd you grow up, and then you moved a bunch of times. Where were some places that you did?
I grew up in Macon, Georgia. After high school, attended Georgia Southern University in Statesboro, Georgia, and then my husband ended up in the private club sector: country clubs, yacht clubs, city clubs. We moved around from Hilton
Head. Hospitality type?
Hospitality, yeah. So he was COO of private clubs, yacht clubs, city clubs, country clubs. Hilton Head, Columbia, South Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina, Wilmington, North Carolina, and Amelia Island. So absolutely found our forever home in Amelia Island. So
he's still in that.
He retired in 2020.
Okay, so you're the breadwinner now.
I am.
Yeah.
The roles have reversed.
Yeah, you can put the stake in the ground. Say we're not moving to another country club.
We are not moving. We have found forever. So,
excellent.
Yes.
Share with us, which I think it's obvious for you and I, these moves that you made, but that life experience that you had, having to do that, moving around, corporate moves, all that kind of stuff, how you bring that to relating with your customers today.
Sure. So, prime example, I just had a family this past weekend out of Michigan. They've got 4 kids, moving their kids one of their kids is in high school. We moved when my youngest was in high school. I do not recommend it. It was not a great transition.
Moved before high school and after.
He was a freshman going into his sophomore year, had grown up all of his buddies in North Carolina. We moved to Florida. Hard transition, but now you ask him and he'll say it was the best move ever. So kind of warms my heart that he says that now.
He created new friends and now looks
and,
back.
You can, kind of guide them, especially if they have the kids in school. My experience, I can relay that, and I can relay to them now that my youngest said it was the best thing ever.
Yeah.
So,
do you find, having experience, working around the kids in the move, I would think something that just came to my head was just moving to Florida. The fortunate thing is here, we have a lot of people moving in. So he's not going to, he or she is not going to be the only.
Not going to be the only new kid, right, for sure.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was a great move. It took about a year. And, when we moved here, we knew maybe 5 people. 5. And none of them were our age. My mother-in-law and father-in-law actually retired to Amelia in 2003. So the only people that we did know were their ages, 70-year-olds. So I got into the community, started volunteering, started meeting people, hadn't thought of a real estate career because I was still a 20-some-year stay-at-home mom.
Right.
Extended maternity leave is like what my husband says. But I got involved and thought about, hey, I could do real estate. This is my forever home. This is it.
Because your LinkedIn is very primitive, I don't know, lack of better words, doesn't have a lot on it.
Right.
Doesn't say that.
It doesn't.
You went to Georgia Southern. Did you got married and you just had this fortunate that you didn't have to work pretty much right away? Right.
So went to Georgia Southern. I met my husband there. We were both from Macon. We just didn't know each other. We got engaged in 96, got married in 97, had our first child in 99. So I worked for Presbyterian Hospital in Charlotte for about 2 years. And then when I had my first son, stayed home and decided never to go back.
Right. So of many of the great agents that I've had on, obviously we've had teachers, we've had some, coming from kind of all different directions. But I find this very interesting of how, the stay-at-home mom, in this case, coming in, you're not the first one that I've had on, but having, I've had unfortunate people who were stay-at-home moms and all of a sudden they got divorced and they're like, what am I going to do?
Right.
And you get into real estate, but it wasn't like, hey, I've got to find a career that I can make this amount of money. It was just, hey, I want to get out of the house now that the kids are older. Is that kind of, yeah.
It was, it was to the point that, I wanted to get out and meet people. Obviously it's a people business. So it gave me something to do. It's my worth, because you start looking at yourself, you're like, well, okay, now my kids are getting of age where they're going to be going off to college soon. What did I do?
Right.
That's kind of my mentality.
Right.
And so I decided, hey, let's try and get.
We're going to come back to that point. I wanted to ask a question about Amelia. Your in-laws were here first.
They were.
Have you visited Amelia before?
I had. Back like middle school, high school.
Right.
It was nothing like it is now at all. But yes, had visited before.
So you had a taste of it. So when the opportunity came,
right,
it was to come to Amelia.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yes.
Right.
When they bought there in 2003, we kind of like just fell in love with it. And I always said, I said, one of these days we will call Amelia Island home.
Yeah.
And it happened. And it's a dream.
Yeah.
Every day I wake up, it is a dream.
It's I wouldn't say there's a lot of treasures around Florida, but it's probably one of the ones late blooming treasures, if you're going to say. Like,
sure.
You were fortunate. I remember when my parents moved, we moved to Cape Cod in the fall of 77. They had been vacationing there since the late 60s.
Okay.
And it was I can imagine it was probably like Amelia Island in 2000.
Right.
From a standpoint of how many, the visitors and so forth, but it's just consistently grown. And then people were like, hey, I want to live here, or I want to have a second home here. And, it's gone beyond that.
Oh, yeah. It's people love, and they always say, we may leave Amelia Island, but it doesn't leave us. And a lot of people come back and buy second home, retirement home, just because they started coming here as a kid.
Right.
So,
All right. So if I get in the timeline, your husband's basically, he's retiring.
right.
You get the opportunity to come to Amelia Island.
Right.
So you're going, hey, I want to get out. Real estate. How does real estate come on your radar?
It kind of just something to do. And actually, we met a couple of people that were agents. I was like, I could do this. I could do this.
Mm-hmm.
And so my husband and I both in 2021 decided we'll try this together. We'll just see. And we got our license in April of 2021 and hit the ground running.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Were you always being the stay-at-home mom, I'm going to say, call it the ringleader, like, for the kids are going through sports or their activities, you were always PTO.
I was the team manager, the team mom of all the soccer stuff. Both boys played soccer, so I did all the team stuff for them, for the whole teams. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I think to be brave enough, or we'll talk about grit, the grit enough to jump into the business, at least with I can do this, is understanding, like you said, it's all about meeting people, and you didn't know anybody, a handful of people here, and now you're like, well, I can meet people, because you've been doing it for your entire life, meeting the new moms, or parents, the players or whatever, being the organizer, being the point person.
Yes. And I'm a people person. I don't meet strangers. Strangers are my friends. So it's the way I look at it. I mean, I would say 99.9% of my clients, even the ones that move away, I keep a relationship with.
You find it easy, you could strike up a conversation with just about anybody.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes. Absolutely.
All right, so you get your license. Now, to me, the next step is one of the biggest for a lot of real estate. I think it kills a lot of real estate agents' careers, unfortunately, is the choice of brokerage. Mm-hmm. How do you evaluate? How did you end up? I assume you've been at Century 21 the whole time?
I am.
Yeah.
I have been.
So how did you end up choosing that's where you wanted to hang your license?
Yeah, so we did, what a lot of people said, go around, interview brokerages. We interviewed, I believe, five brokerages on the island. And it came down to training. Who was going to train us? We didn't want a mentor because, neither of us had ever been in real estate. We wanted hands-on training by above.
Right.
And Century 21, we were very impressed with Gina Miller. That was our broker in charge at the time. Bobby Ferreira owned it. Mm-hmm. Gina and Dean have since bought the Century 21 brokerage. So Gina trained us, hands-on training. We were with her probably 3 or 4 days a week for 4 to 5 weeks. Mm-hmm. And literally that was what we wanted. That's what we needed. And anything that we need from her, she's always available. You talk to a lot of agents and they'll say their broker is not always available.
Right.
I can say ours is always available. We could call her at 2 a.m. She may not pick up, but she's going to answer at 6 a.m.
Return the text or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. How did she, because if I go around and you talk to every brokerage, all of them have great training and great technology. That's right. That's the key. They all want to tell you they have that.
Right.
But where the rubber meets the road is like what she was doing with you. How did she express that to you? Or did you go talk to some other agents and said, this is the way she does it?
No, we didn't talk to any agents within Century 21. She just told us, she said, I will take you on personally and train you how you should be trained.
Right.
And that was huge.
And you had faith in her that she was going to follow through, and obviously she did.
She was just very genuine. Let me say that.
Yeah.
Very genuine. And just really were impressed. So, both of us.
All right. So, some of the things you do, I imagine you guys were shadowing her.
We were.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say shadowing. I would say, we met in the conference room, 3 to 4 hours, 3 to 4 days a week. And she went over real life experiences.
Right. Ramp up your learning curve.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. And, I just think that was tremendously beneficial, more so than just sticking us with a mentor.
Right.
Does the mentor really have our best interest at heart?
What are some of the things that you can, if you can recall, is everyone has their vision of real estate. Obviously, you had done multiple transactions with your own moves, moving around, but now you are a real estate agent.
Right.
You're sitting down. What are some of the things that she touched that really expanded your horizon as far as what a real estate agent encompasses.
Right.
And then being on Amelia Island, with the vacation, a lot of investment. It's not like you're in middle of St. Johns County where you're primarily dealing with single family homes and so forth. You've got all the above in Amelia.
Right. We didn't really expand on it like that, from condos to homes. It was just the ins and outs of transactions, just your basic knowledge, but on steroids, I guess I should say. Yeah. I mean, there wasn't, homes versus condos versus, whatever. It was just real estate in general that she went over. It was just very, very good training.
Right. Well, you kick off and you have your Rookie of the Year in, you said April, really in 8 months. You do enough to acquire that award of Rookie of the Year. So you must have got it off on a huge start. What are some of the things that obviously she shared with you to do?
Right.
And then obviously, I don't know, maybe you brought in some of your own ideas to really get you off to that quick start.
Right. So she told us about farming our neighborhood. We live in a condo complex. For me to know the ins and outs of where I live, my neighborhood.
Right.
And so that's what I did. I focused on my neighborhood. Within 30 days, I had my first listing of coming on as a realtor with Century 21.
Right.
And from there, it just exploded. It honestly did.
Share with the listeners a little bit about I enjoy condos. I don't fear condos. I think a lot of lending has got a little weird with condos recently. You've probably run some lenders that probably would have done it 2 years ago, but they're not doing it now because of the different things that have come down the pipeline. But as an agent, and I have experience with my wife's an agent. We have multiple units in a condo complex in St. Johns County.
Sure.
And when you go in there and you, I'm going to say own it, like everything inside and out. The different units that are available in there.
The floor plans, everything.
You're helping people find renters if that's what they're doing to get referrals and so forth. Explain what the details of working that condo complex that you're talking versus the single family home. We're farming a single family home community. All right, you're farming around, but a condo's a little different.
It is a little different. So we have to know. I like to know everything: floor plans, my bylaws, what the condo fee covers. I mean, there's just so many ins and outs. The milestone, the Sears, just. There's so many intricacies of a condo, whether it's a R3 and R2, if you can't rent it all in there. I mean, those are big factors that you need to know. Pet friendly, what's included in that condo fee? Have there been any assessments? What's the assessment history? What's the reserves look like? All of that.
Now, expanding out over Amelia, and I speak with this question from the knowledge of just thinking of St. Augustine Beach. They've gone to restrictions on stuff like the Airbnb, right? You can, there in St. Augustine Beach, I believe the number is 100 permits. There's only 100 units that can Airbnb. Right. When you're dealing with that over Amelia, how important, because I imagine you have a number of clients that are coming in looking for that kind of property.
Right, we do. I like to know if there's a rental certificate, how many they have. A lot of places in Amelia don't have a cap on rental certificates. Duval does. I've got one right now here in Jacksonville that unfortunately they're out of rental certificates. There's a waiting list for that condo complex.
So people are listening, that is the number of units that they'll allow to be rented at any one time in the complex.
Correct. Okay. Yes. So it's important to know that whether there is a max on rental certificates, if they've already capped, if there's a waiting list, how long is that waiting list? All of that can affect resale.
Yeah.
So
speak a little bit to the Airbnb situation, because I imagine you have those customers up there.
Right.
What are your customers looking for when they are looking at that investment, whether it's right on the beach or in a condo?
Sure. They want to know what's the minimum days they can rent, whether it's a 1-day rental, a 3-day rental. They want to know the rental history. I like to pull rental histories from an ocean front versus an ocean view, just so they can see what kind of dollar difference it is.
Yeah.
But the main thing is for them is the return on the investment, knowing what they're going to net.
Are you finding a lot of cash buyers right now?
We are.
Yeah.
We are.
I think that's everywhere I looked. It's well over 50%.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And even on some of these investment properties, they are actually paying cash.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd say about 70% of my sales in 2025 are cash.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. I prepped you pre-show for this next question because I believe every real estate agent has to have a level of grit. You've had some great success. You said you were having problems trying to think of a setback that you may have had or a problem customer. Lucky you've had all great customers. As I said, like kind attracts like kind. But there's many agents out there that, well, I think you've probably seen it in your office. There's some agents like yourself that have excelled since the rates went up in May of 22. They have had a banner the last 12, 14 months, where other agents have had a rough time. Their phone's not ringing for whatever reason. And it takes that level of grit to fight through it and find, what your next thing. But the LLC of grit, love, laughter, and consistency. Why do you love real estate?
The people. I'm a people person. Love meeting people. Love hearing their stories. Everybody has a story.
Yeah. The majority of your clients coming in and making your primary residence in Amelia? Or you mean that or more?
I would say half and half.
Yeah.
Yeah, half and half.
Second home.
Second home, yeah.
Share, if you could share with us, maybe you don't have to mention names, but just to say something about you and the people, because I imagine when you say that, it's because the relationship has gone beyond the transaction.
It does. The relationship does not end at the closing table. If it does, you should not be in real estate. It extends far past that. Like I said, I'm friends with a lot of my clients. I go to dinner, we hang out.
It's really flattering when they ask you out to dinner. They want to take you out to dinner after the transaction.
Right. I have that as well. And it's like, you don't need to do that. Let's go and hang out.
We have a list right now. We're so busy with the kids and stuff. And we got people, past clients. My wife's like, hey, we want to take you guys out to dinner. And I'm like, when can we find time?
Right. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Yes,
that is a challenge.
A problem.
The laughter part of it, and like you said, you couldn't think of any story, but really we deal with it in life. Setbacks that we've had, curveball, maybe, I don't know, your husband lost your job and you didn't know what you were going to do next. And then, the next door opened. Yeah. And I think today we laugh about those situations. So when you have a bad inspection report, you're like, yeah, whatever. Right. Just share a little bit of how you're able to, and I use laughter because I think as humans, whether we actually laugh physically or we just laugh inside, like, I've got this. I've gotten through worse situations. Yeah.
No, a bad inspection report, that you're going to have those. You just have to work through it. And, if it comes down to me fixing an issue, I'll fix it.
Right.
If it needs that, that's what I'm here for.
I found, and I believe you're there, but if you can back me on this, or maybe disagree with, maybe you disagree, but I find the top agents, the inspection report is an opportunity, an opportunity to really showcase their skills, the negotiation, show your value.
Absolutely.
Can you think of a situation where you had an inspection report? And I had a great couple on Parham team down in Palatka, and they go through that thing, and lucky he knows a little bit about construction. He'll go in and fix it himself.
Yeah.
Make the transaction work, because they're dealing with a different client, may not be able to afford that fix or whatever, but it might be a couple $100 fix or just something more or less literally screwing in a light bulb sometimes, or fixing a...
Right. That's what we do.
Yeah.
It honestly is. And I'm going to do my damnedest to make sure that it moves forward.
If you were speaking to NEFAR, had you come down Nassau County's got its own board up there. I shouldn't negate that. Yeah. Had you come in and speak to new agents, and just what should their mindset and attitude be when dealing with an inspection report?
Positive. Don't let it drag you down. If there's something that you can do to fix it, do it. You're getting paid very well, typically, to see it through.
Do you find that brings up an interesting thing? Because I think some of these agents, and they're not top agents, because I've had the top agents on and I know their attitude towards it. A couple $100 over here is not a big deal, knowing the long-term benefit of getting the transaction, or the mental mindset. The more challenging you make it, the more difficult and angst that you create between the buyer and seller. Right. Yeah. To go in there. But, sometimes you got to come out of your pocket a little bit.
Absolutely.
Have you found some agents, though, that are very...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I absolutely... I mean, I've got one right now. I will probably be out of pocket a couple of grand. But Doesn't matter. They're getting what they want, and they're going to refer me probably to friends and every family
Right.
when they decide to move. So it's a win-win.
Has that attitude been the same always, but it's something that has grown, that you've grown with the confidence of your business, that there's another transaction out there? Because I think people get that attitude when they feel their glass is half empty.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the attitude of abundance.
Right.
They have the attitude of scarcity. So they're like, oh, I ain't going to spend that money, or I ain't going to go over there and spend my time. They need to, if they're not going to pay someone to do it, well, then it's not going to happen.
Yeah. That's a bad attitude to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like that.
But it's an attitude of scarcity, not realizing that customer that's in front of you
Right.
is another billboard that you're putting up.
Right.
Of referrals.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Every customer is a customer down the road.
Yeah.
That's the way you have to look at it.
Yeah.
So
every transaction that marketing is done in front of you. Consistency. What do you feel, and maybe you've been doing it from the beginning, maybe something you taught, or maybe just something you naturally do. I mean, one of the things you did mention was coming into the office, so we'll put that one up. We'll think of something else. But something you feel you're doing consistently in your business that is actually, bearing fruit for you.
Consistently in my business, I have a social media group. We discussed this before.
Yeah.
I've got about 13,000, a little over 13,000 followers. And it's basically the eats, events, and entertainment of Amelia Island. I've probably done this year alone, probably around 10 million.
From referrals from that page. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you, great concept, great subject topic for Amelia Island.
Right.
Everyone's always got guests coming in, and so
Right.
where do we go to dinner? And obviously you enjoy wine, so you have a little interest in that to share.
Right.
How do you give us how did you get it started? And then if you could tell us, how are you actually letting people know that you're not only the organizer of this page and you're making it happen, but hey, I'm a real estate agent.
Right. So I actually started it before I got into real estate. I started it when we moved to Amelia in 2019. And I just did it as something as fun. I was bored. So I'm like, oh, I like this kind of stuff. So let's try it. So started it, the people I met through volunteering, gave it, to them and said, hey, if you guys have any input, put your restaurant, anything you'd like to eat, put it on there, whatever. Mm-hmm. So it kind of grew. It didn't grow big, but it grew. In 2021, when I got my license, I said, oh, I can really utilize this. So pretty much everything that I post on there, at the end of my post, it's my Tammy Tingle Century 21 Miller Elite, top 5 in Florida with Century 21,
right,
and my dollar volume for 2024. So everything I post, people see that.
What are the things that you're posting on that page?
All of the happy hours, the live music schedule, the restaurant specials. Now restaurants are actually contacting me, putting them on.
Nice.
Yeah. So
do you get some comp there at the restaurant sometimes? No free glass of wine or anything?
Well, probably. Not like crazy, but I mean, it's it's just a fun thing to do, and now it's part of my business. So
well, it goes back to who was the lady that was training you at Century 21?
Gina. Miller. Mm-hmm.
Gina was training you, hey, farm your community.
Right.
And now you are farming your community with this page.
Right.
And you've picked a subject topic that's popular with everybody, very neutral.
Right.
And it's just snowballed. And now you're farming it through the entire island,
right,
and beyond,
right,
with this page, talking about a subject matter. You've become the expert.
Right.
Yeah. Everyone, and then every time someone goes on there, they're seeing your name.
Right.
Every time you do a post.
Right.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And it's fun. I have a lot of fun with it.
Do you have who is it? Josh Rogers. He has a page. I think it's Moving to St. John's or something like that. And he's actually got some other people to be regular contributors on there, so it keeps up that consistent. Yeah. There's always something new going on there. And it's not all just coming from you.
Right.
Tammy's post. Do you have other people?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's open to anybody that follows me for them to post about their experiences, whether it's dining, whether it's music, whether it's entertainment. So yeah, it's pretty unique. Page.
I imagine what people are thinking right now. What if someone posts something negative?
It's quickly deleted because there's pages for that. That's Nassau Rants, Raves, and Reviews. That's where you go to rant. My page is not for ranting. It's not
right.
political.
If you had a bad experience, just don't say nothing. Is that your kind of?
No, just don't sit there and dog a restaurant if you didn't go to management and address it while you were there.
Yeah, I agree with that. It was my wife has a restaurant. She went, I don't know, prom night or something in St. Augustine, and she doesn't like to go there. I'm like, honey, that was like 30 years ago. I mean, the management has changed.
Yeah.
The owner's probably changed.
Right.
And we definitely, the chef is not there anymore.
Right.
So
it's a fun page, and people like it because it's a fun page. So.
No, talk about the consistency, we brought before. That's consistency.
Yeah, consistently posting, and also on that page, it's only, in one of the rules, I have rules that you have to abide by on the page, and it's only my real estate that can be posted. So only my open houses, I do post that.
Oh, so you post open houses on the same? Okay.
It's my event.
It's your page.
So, yeah, and I usually have, give or take, 5 to 6 open houses a weekend. So
you said you're up to about 13,000, some change in followers. So that's roughly been about 3 or 4 years now that you've.
Yeah.
Interesting. I would reach out to Tammy if you have an idea on this. I'm sure she could help you structure this page for you. But that's just, of course, the great thing, it's the island.
Right.
But there's, if you're down in St. Augustine, it's very similar. You have all these different restaurants, and some of them on some of these side streets, you don't even know they're there.
Right.
And you need to expose them and give them some love. And it's the small business owners, the small restaurant owners that you're putting out there, they know so many people.
They do.
A lot of them
I've actually had 2 restaurant owners refer me.
Yeah.
So
they know so many, and probably actually more. You just don't know. They actually,
I just don't know, but
because they know so many people. A lot of them have been there a long time. So if they have friends or family that are moving in, they're asking them for their advice, and that's
that's spot on.
You're adding value to the community, and the value is coming back.
Right.
That's awesome. We talked a little bit about, you brought up your daily routine. If we can really narrow in on that, was it 8 to 11? I think you said
8 to 11, and here recently, like I was talking about Greg Harrelson, he's a guru for C21 out of the Carolinas. I was at home doing my normal work, but I feel like at home I get distracted. There's distractions at home. So I recently have just started going into the office. That is my time. I don't have distractions. I'm there to literally email, phone call, lead generation, calling expireds, calling FSBOs.
Do you have a goal each day? Are you doing something a little different each day? Because I imagine not calling FSBOs every day.
Each day, as we were discussing ChatGPT, I ask it to give me a 30-day game plan.
Okay.
And it does. Obviously, and I kind of follow that. Yeah. That's
interesting. So how did you tell us how you told ChatGPT, what activities, and then it gave you a schedule?
It did.
Tell us a little bit how you communicated with it.
So I asked it to give me I said I'm in real estate. Give me a 30-day schedule for lead generation. And that's very basic. But it did a very detailed 7 days at a time to get followers, lead generation. I mean, it was very detailed. Yeah. ChatGPT is very beneficial to me. I use it quite often.
I've been using it consistently. Well, I was introed to it about 2 months after it started, but lately I've been using it a lot, even with the show here, because I've had all these top agents, I've had all this content of the best agents in Northeast Florida, and how it can become real estate excellence can become a search and when you go on to ChatGPT, and it knows if you go on I went on chat, you go to ChatGPT, what's the top retail residential real estate podcast? I come up, right? It knows this stuff, and when you start going in and you start asking more detailed questions, and that's clarify. It was telling me to do something, and I said, I don't want to expose my secret, but what I asked, I said, if I'm talking to an expert that does what you're telling me to do, because what you're telling me to do is, has to do with the internet and stuff like that. And I'm like, if I wanted to talk the language of a person who actually does that in the internet IT world, whatever you want to call it,
right?
spell that out for me so I can basically hand it to them.
Right.
And
it's amazing.
it makes your life so much easier and
does.
within seconds.
Right.
Sometimes it's too fast because you're like, oh my God, I got all this stuff to do.
Yeah, stuff that we used to spend hours on.
Oh yeah.
It can,
Days, weeks, whatever. And we were talking pre-show because today we do have a lunch and learn with this gentleman using AI to home search. You've been using it to do your property descriptions.
Property descriptions, again, setting a calendar, daily calendar. Instagram, I ask it for social media cues. Yeah.
Yeah. And the importance, just so the audience out there, if you're not using AI to create your property descriptions, you need to, because I think we all will agree in the coming years, AI looks for AI. It's looking for its language. It's looking for what it wrote.
Right.
And if you're not having it write your bio, if you're not having it write your property descriptions or anything else on your websites, you may or may be missed.
Right.
So you want to tell it everything and then have it write it and, go and improve it and
Right.
clean it up. I mean, it talks, but it's looking for its language.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The way it talks. So something to put out there. Let's talk about you've had huge success since April 21, killed it last year. What are you seeing? Imagine with your production, some of the top people, Century 21, are communicating with you because you're in that fine line echelon of top producers of what's going on in the marketplace, what's going on in your marketplace at Amelia Island. We talked about 70% of your deals are cash, right? What are you sensing here? In any prediction without any, we're not going to stick it to you, but
right. No.
what you feel, what you're seeing going on.
Well, you've definitely seen a slowdown. I've talked to several lenders that I, normally use. Apps for loans have gone down. You talk to inspectors, they're not as busy. Same thing with photography, they're not as busy. So
the listings are up. Are you getting? You have a lot of listings right now?
19.
Yeah.
Have a lot of listings, but are they moving? They're not moving as quickly. Days on market are longer. So, yeah, I hopefully, we'll see an uptick. But right now, everything is slow.
Yeah.
Everything is slow.
I was fortunate. I had one buyer we locked in when Trump's got everybody on a tailspin of what's going on, and the rates dipped there, and I locked him in the low sixes without any points on just $100,000 loan. I was like, feel great. Now you look at the rates here now. It's been over like 2, maybe 3 weeks later, and they're right back up there again, and it is really putting definitely a crunch on the mortgage business. So I know what he wants to do. I believe I know what he wants to do. And getting the bonds, the bad day in the stock, people complain about the stock market, but a bad day in the stock market is a good day for mortgage rates, which could be a sale of a home, which is, moves communities.
Right.
There's so many people involved. And so, we might suck up a little downturn in a day or week or month in the stock market, but it's at that bond market we need to get, get those, drive those rates down.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Let's talk. Do you work with any new agents coming into the office? No, you don't. No. You don't have time for that.
No.
Do they ever ask you? They must ask you to come in and give some insight.
Questions.
Yeah.
And I try and give them as best as I can. I did a training through my office regarding open houses because I've been doing open houses since 21, and I do them religiously. So I have a set list of rules that if an agent is going to do my open house.
Share.
So 6 to 10 signs, and they've got to be highly visible signs. You can't just get the little rectangle open house sign. 6 to 10 open house signs. I want the street address and the times on those signs. I want you to meet me at the property.
Okay, so you're actually making up signs specific to that.
Oh, yeah.
It's
specific.
not just their everyday sign that they just use on every open house.
And
you want a number of those signs to have address on there.
Right, address and day and time. And it usually 6 to 10. I prefer the higher mark because exposure, visibility is key.
Yeah.
I want them to meet me at the property a couple of days before so I can go over everything that I know about the property so that they're,
this is if you're actually not doing it yourself.
If I'm not doing it myself, if they're hosting one for me, I make them up a little cheat sheet so that they have a little cheat sheet of everything, when it was built, zoning, flood zone, taxes, all of that is there for them. Yeah, but main thing is exposure.
I like the signs with the address on it. I never see that.
Yeah, so I take what I do and I tell them I have poster board. And I cut strips of poster. Each poster board is usually 6 to 8 sheets. So I write it on there, and I have the ugliest open house signs. They stand out. They're yellow and black. So on that poster board, it has the day and time and the actual address. Because sometimes people get lost,
Yeah.
If you're in a big community, say on Amelia Walk, that has 700, I believe, homes, if you don't have, get them there, they could just end up at somebody else's open house. I want them at mine.
Right.
So they could at least take a picture of the sign. They've got the street address, time. And signs go out 24 hours before the open house.
All right. So you have these, it's a generic sign, but has a place where you can write in
Right.
open house 12 to 2.
Yes.
123 Smith Street, whatever.
Yeah. So it's, my sign, it's a custom sign. It's yellow, black, has my name, has my brokerage, my telephone number. And then the poster board is across the bottom with the time and address.
So like an attachment.
It is. It's like my open house signs. It's an ordeal. It's a process. So it's kind of like a little shop.
But again, your customer that's in front of you, in this case, your seller, that is your poster. I mean, that is your billboard.
Right.
And the average person, you may not think of much about it, but the seller of that house, they're going to look at it and say, wow, her sign is different. It's actually got my address on there and the time they're doing it.
Right.
There's no one else doing that.
Right.
I have not seen anyone else doing
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Where did you pick that one up?
Well, had somebody come through and they're like, yeah, we couldn't really find it. This is when I first started. And I was like, that's not good, So then ended up at a Century 21 conference, and Greg Harrelson, again, said, if you're not having 6 to 10 open house signs, what are you doing? So, therefore, my 6 to 10
I want
signs.
I want you to take a picture of one of those signs this weekend.
Yeah,
for me.
absolutely.
And I want to see it. I'll post it on my Instagram, because that really is, you're 100% right. If you're way back in the subdivision, and you need 3 or 4, because they're making 3 or 4 turns, and you need a sign at every sort of turn,
you need to get
you need an address, because they'll quickly just put it in their GPS and go in their phone and take them right there.
Right.
They don't have to look for the next sign or whatever it is.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's brilliant. From the standpoint of make sure that if someone sees that sign at the very front entrance, that they're going to get to the back. And I think too, the collateral benefit is the seller is going to see that and say, wow, they're different. They're making sure someone's coming by my house today.
Yeah.
Especially if they've got to leave and go do something for 2 or 3 hours while you're there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
All right. So let's dig into your open house special. So we have the special sign. You're giving specific instructions. You're meeting with the agent who might be sitting
that's
hosted to have a little, here are the highlights of the residence.
Right. Cheat sheet. Actually, take the cheat sheet, put it in a frame so it's there. They can see it easily visible, and the person walking in can actually see it.
Oh, okay.
So they know the updates that have been done. They know the taxes. They know the flood zone. They know the rentability. Yeah.
Any fees, any of those little things, because those are all questions that come up.
So CDD fee, HOA monthly fee, all of that is listed.
From a lending standpoint, I get questions all the time. Hey, can you work up a payment for this? Anyone can go on their phone and put, I'm borrowing $300,000 and the interest rate's approximately this. What's my principal and interest payment? But I think they're not really asking that question.
Right.
They want me to obviously estimate what an insurance would run.
Sure.
And then any other fees and so forth. That's really what they're looking for. But I need that information from the agent to give me that.
Right.
When really having this cheat sheet and have it printing out, keep it simple, stupid. They can look right at it.
Right.
And calculate approximately what a payment's looking like.
Right.
Now, as a lender, I love talking to you guys, but I think from a professional standpoint, it makes you look like you're on top of your game.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But in putting that stuff in the, I think the other part of it builds confidence in the buyer. I'm sure you agree with this, is transparency.
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Letting them know what else might go on. All right. So we have the cheat sheet. What else are you doing on the open house? What's the Tammy open house special?
Social
advice?
media, they have to post. You have to post social media. at least 4 Facebook pages dedicated to whether it's open houses, for sale houses, whatever, for our area. And there's probably, oh my gosh, there's probably 8,000 people on one of them. And so at my open houses, I always make it a point, how did you hear about it? I have never had anyone come in my open house and say Realtor or Zillow. It's always been a sign or social media.
Interesting.
I have never had anyone. That's my number one. That, and aside from, are you working with an agent?
Asking that question is so, again, I think that's not rocket science, right?
Right.
But how many agents are asking, how did you actually hear about it? I guarantee less than 50%, probably less than 20%, but I'm going to be generous and say less than 50% are probably not even asking how that person ever heard about how they got there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to know because I want to know what's working.
Right. To go back to talk a little bit about that in your success of your business, because you've had enough volume to have some trial and error.
Right.
Versus that agent who may be only doing 4 to 6 homes a year. They don't have enough trial and error to actually really zone in on what's working. What do you do from in keeping what are some of the stats that you like to have?
Stats that I like to have. Turnover in a neighborhood. If there's not much turnover, do I really want to farm it? Am I wasting time? If there's a lot of turnover, that might be a good neighborhood to farm.
Okay.
Something as simple as that. Expireds, FSBOs. I like to look back 6 months worth of expireds, see if I can get one of those, because you already know they want to sell. They wouldn't have listed it otherwise.
I was this, like, you were the stats. You might be just keeping them in your mind, like when someone comes into your listing. How did you hear about us? You're tracking. There was a design. Yeah. What are some of your business stats that you kind of measure yourself and adjust your marketing or whatever you do?
Honestly, I mean, I'm so simple. Like you said, the yellow notebook, like literally there's one right here, my dry erase board. I don't even have a CRM. So I've kind of been looking at CRMs, but I need to. But yeah, it's mainly mental, keeping it up here.
Right. So. Well, that brings up an interesting topic. Are you doing everything yourself right now?
I am.
That's a skill to be able to do $35 million by yourself. Because a lot of people at about, I think the number is between anywhere, and depending on a price point, homes you're working on, somewhere between 7 to 10 million. Someone who's doing everything themselves starts to get maxed out. And then you keep hitting that lid. You've grown every year, so you're like, oh, I haven't hit the lid. Let me just keep going, right?
Right.
But when you start like going, hey, I'm only doing this much for the last 2 years, how can I, go beyond?
Right.
Have you thought about, for example, like having some sort of assistant do some of these things for you, tracking, prepping the agents to go out and do take some of the off your plate?
No.
No.
No, I look at it like I know the product that I bring, and that's why I want to, when somebody does my open house,
Right.
I want to make sure that they understand what my brand means to me. So hopefully that they bring their brand.
Or you're conveying that seller's information directly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But the social media, some of the other trivial things, it's like whether it was you or someone else doing it, because some of the stuff you said you're using AI to create for you. Someone else could take that.
They could.
Yeah. You're not there yet.
No. You sound like
you still have you just have this great excitement about real estate. You just want to do it all.
Yeah.
But I mean, and it's amazing. It is amazing to have done that. You've done that sort of volume completely by yourself, because my
husband, he helped, but he doesn't do like the social media or anything like that. He does all of like my paperwork. So
he's doing some of the transaction coordinating.
He does like that. Yes. Yeah.
Is he writing the contracts for you? How does it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have an assistant. Basically, it's handling some of those things.
Right.
So you keep forward facing.
Right.
How important because the people was important to you. That's why you love thing. So if we're talking to someone who's hitting this lid that I've been talking about and doesn't have anyone doing some of those little things that give you, in this case, your husband is giving you that extra time to spend with your people.
Right.
How that, I mean, have you realized it's how that, when you look at other agents saying, well, I'm getting this extra hours to spend with my customers, whether it's out doing showings or just having lunch, whatever it is, how that's actually changed your business? Have you actually looked at that? Because you're so not forward facing, but you're spending more time face to face. You're not sitting behind the computer.
Right. Yeah, no, it's definitely beneficial having him be able to do all of that. I like to, I'm hands-on with everything.
Yeah.
Of course, I like to see what he's doing, and sometimes I'll end up sending documents that he's already sent, just because it's like, okay, it's there. I want to do it right then. But yeah, it's definitely beneficial because it's definitely more face to face. I get a little more time face to face with my clients, like you said,
right? Because
I'm not doing paperwork stuff behind a computer.
Because I imagine on Amelia Island, you've dealt with some higher end properties there. What have you found? I think any top person delivers the same level of service, but there's dealing with different, I'm going to say personalities, just different, someone who's looking at 1.5, 2 million. Now, they may have won the lottery and didn't have anything yesterday. There are people like that, or inherited a lot of money or something like that. But I would imagine some of your tactfulness, for lack of better words, strategery, dealing with some of the higher end clients. How do you work across the spectrum? Because you're still selling some stuff in the western part of Nassau County, I would imagine.
Right.
You said you had a Jacksonville condo. So it's not like, hey, I'm only dealing with people who are buying $1 million and up. Yeah. You're across the spectrum. What have you found as an agent, some of the things that you've done personally to adjust to the different clients that you're actually working with, coming from different socio-economic, whatever backgrounds?
Yeah, I think I treat everybody exactly the same, whether they're buying a $300,000 house or whether they're buying a $5 million house. They're still going to get the same level of service.
Right.
You shouldn't face. So
to spin off of that, the importance of, because imagine dealing with some of these homes, they're not brand new. Something needs to be fixed, something needs to be worked. How have you found the right people in your community that make you look good?
Yeah.
Whether it's a lender or someone to help you with fix a plumbing issue or an electrical issue in a listing you have.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you've worked on? Do you feel that you built a Rolodex of?
I do. I have a vendor guide.
Right.
And that is given to all of my sellers as well as my buyers. People that I've worked with, people that I'm comfortable with. Say it's a handyman. I've got a great handyman that I'm working with. Plumber, got great plumbers. But I mean, I'm providing them at least 5 to 6 names in my vendor guide for each category.
Each category, 5 or 6.
Yeah.
You found 5 or 6 really good handyman?
I do.
Do they all live there in Amelia Island?
They do.
I don't think we have 5 or 6 in all of St. Johns County.
Yeah, I am fortunate. I'll actually see one later today. So, yeah, I'm very
You must have
fortunate.
some really good retirees that want to do some side work. Yeah.
I do. Absolutely.
Because I really feel, as I was, again, talking to the Parham team a couple episodes ago, and how important it is, because in their community, as small as it is down there in Palatka and you in Amelia Island, you've got to have these people that you can call up and say, hey, we've got an electrical issue. I need this done, and I need it done because we're going to go listing, or, hey, the inspection's coming, or, we need to get this done so I can get it on the market.
Right.
So it doesn't show up on the inspection report.
Right.
But how important it is to be a concierge of that.
It's providing the value that you're being well paid for.
Right. So. You don't leave it up to the seller to ultimately take you're forcing the action. You're forcing the action.
I don't want to be reactive. I want to be proactive.
Right.
Yeah.
I imagine you've gone into some of this, talk about that part of it, because I think it's another thing agents might, I can't think of the phrase I want to use, but some of them don't have the confidence, even 3 years in, that they are the expert. At what point did you I imagine you're in Amelia Island, you might have had a pretty big transaction your first year. You're like, I've only been doing real estate for 4 months and I've got this $1 million sale.
Right.
And you look at it like, I'm not worthy of this.
Right.
And at what point in your career did you say, hey, I am the expert? I've got Gina back in the office. She's teaching me. I've got these other transactions now through the years. And now you walk in with that confidence and authority, because I don't think every agent has that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say probably year 2, felt a lot more confident. Now, If you get the listing, you get the listing. If you don't, move on.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's just simple as that. You don't focus on what's behind you.
Right.
You focus on.
But that conversation, so 'cause I think the breakdown in which causes issues further down the line, like some of these houses, I imagine maybe sometimes you recommend a pre-listing inspection.
Right, and I actually did that. Prime example, back in December, I had a 100-year-old house in downtown Fernandina. This lady had reached out to me. She interviewed several agents, and I actually recommended a pre-inspection. And she's like, oh, well, we had an inspection when we bought it, and, you know, we've improved everything. It's like, you know, I said, it doesn't hurt. You know, it's a 100-year-old home. Come to find out, the inspector prior did not go under the house. And she had to end up spending about $20,000 in foundation repair.
Yeah.
Because of that inspector not going under the home.
And you had that done before you even put it on the market.
Before we even put it on the market. Yeah.
Because here's the tip, agents that are listening, that's an excuse for someone. You worked so hard to get it under contract. You got it under contract. And then someone crawls under the house and realizes, oh, we got a foundation issue. Oh, we didn't know that.
Right.
You should know that.
Yeah.
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 And that's a major issue, which most people would have walked away
Absolutely.
from. They would say, whether you were going to fix it before closing or not, they would have said, oh, now you got foundation issue. I'm moving on to something else.
Right.
You know, even if it could be, because I'm sure you've had the smallest, because they all have buyer's remorse.
Right.
Right. They're all under contract. They go have the inspection, and there's this one little thing that's a few $100s. They're like, no, we don't want to buy it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I'm a big proponent of pre-listing inspections, especially for some of these really expensive homes, because you don't have that many buyers to sell them to.
You don't. Your pool is very small.
Yeah.
So
you don't want to give them that out. Let's finish up with this. Give me 3 things that, with the current market, it says, you know, we got high interest rates now, so mortgage applications are down and so forth. What are 3 things, if Century 21 said, hey, run our sales meeting this weekend or this week, what would you tell the agents to say 3 things that they all need to be doing within their business right now with the current market, and obviously be consistent with it?
Farm your neighborhood, farm your expireds, and farm your FSBOs. Because expireds and FSBOs have already demonstrated they want to sell. Right. So you could come in and look up like a king.
What have you found? I don't want to give the answer that I think you're going to give me, but I want you to say, from the expireds, what have you found with some of these expireds that you've called upon that maybe have gotten some action from?
Listing too high, or given a price that was not going to happen. Right. And, you know, have that real talk with them that, hey, this is what it's going to take to sell. Right. Unfortunately,
because the prior agent may not have had that conversation with them.
Right.
Or maybe there was an ego thing where they said, no, we want this much more money for our house, and they didn't want to tell that agent to go ahead and lower it because the agent told them to lower it, but their ego said, no, we're not going to lower it. Right. Now that agent's out and you come in, you're the second voice saying lower the price, and they're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a lot of the cases that, you know, I like to go in knowing that they're willing to come down if it hasn't sold. If we're not seeing the activity that we should see. Yeah. Yeah.
I think you agree. Right now, if it's sitting, most likely it's because, well, the market feels the price is too high.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Anything you like to add?
No, just, you know, everybody always asks me, you know, how did you do what you did? It's, you know, putting the work in. It's not a part-time job.
Yeah. Treating it like a business. Like you said, coming in 8 to 11, you're doing these things and you're holding yourself accountable. ChatGPT gave you the schedule.
Right,
work it.
Exactly. It's so easy. Oh my gosh, it's so easy.
All right. I mean, because you could go into Chat. You were very broad with ChatGPT. Go in there and say, hey, I need a 5-day, Monday through Friday schedule from 8 to 11 of activities that are going to create action. I like doing A, B, and C.
Right.
And it will
do it.
Yeah. It'll give you statistics on how, if you make so many phone calls, how many yeses you might get.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think, would you agree, doing those things, especially right now, right? There are so many people sitting on the sidelines right now. Like there's buyers going, okay, the interest rates are too high. So they're sitting there waiting for interest rates to lower. Right. And then there's sellers in the same situation because they have a low interest rate, but they really do want to move.
Right.
That there's going to be, and it comes a point where they're forced to. So those people are trickling over the top. But I think if rates we get 5.875, there's going to be a frenzy.
There will be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I agree.
And if you're making those phone calls, when it does, it's your phone, and then you're going to need more assistance.
Correct. Yes.
Running out, more people sitting on your listings. But Tammy, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you making the trip down today. Yeah. Reach out to Tammy. Her contact information will be in the show notes and so forth. Follow her. What's the name of the page that you have?
Amelia Island Eats Events and Entertainment.
Amelia Island Eats Events and Entertainment. So if you're going to Amelia Island and you want a good restaurant, or you have anything to do, or what's going on this weekend, it's on there. Yep. That is brilliant. And actually, great advice for anyone. Can start that page anywhere they're at. That's because I think personally, I live in what's considered St. Augustine, but it's St. Johns County on 210.
Okay.
We're still 20 minutes to go, 25 minutes to get to downtown St. Augustine.
Right.
We don't ever hear of half the events that are going on in downtown St. Augustine.
There's opportunity.
There's opportunity there to be putting those events, because there's always something, just like Amelia's.
Always something.
There's always something going on there, fish festival or whatever.
Right.
Shrimp.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. All right. Tammy, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This may be it for today's episode of Real Estate Excellence, but we both know your pursuit of excellence doesn't stop here. To connect with the best of the best and really take your skills to the next level, join our community by visiting TracyHayesPodcast.com, where you'll meet more like-minded individuals looking to expand their inner circle and their personal experience. That's available at TracyHayesPodcast.com.